Welcome to Lululand. We're all so happy to have you, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes that you probably either never noticed or never knew existed. I'm Callan, and I'm here to tell you some interesting stories about what goes on in your local theme parks. If any of you out there are familiar with theme parks at all, then you knew this video was coming at some point. Height requirements! What are they? That's when you get to a ride and see the infamous "you must be this tall to ride" pole out front of it. And this is a thing that seems to be a problem for a lot of people. So when beings plan their vacations to theme parks, they tend to forget one huge detail, and that's that they're there for their kids, not just for themselves. You see a ride and go, "Oh wow, I want to go on that," but then it turns out that your kid is too short to enjoy the ride. Now, what would any logical person do? Either initiate a child swap, which is where one person rides the ride and the other waits outside with the child. Heck, they could even go do something else with the child in the meantime. Then when the first person is done, they switch off and the person who waited outside gets to go on the ride, usually without having to wait in the line again. Just ask the person at the front how to do this. Or you can move on and do things that a child can do. But what do people actually do? They try to start fights, and they try to lie about things. First off, people scream that it isn't fair that their child isn't tall enough to ride. They whine about how much money they paid to get into the park, and that they should be allowed to go on. They'll do stupid shit like guilt trip you by making their own child cry. "You hear that, honey? This lady won't let you ride. Shame on you, he's been waiting to ride this ride all day." That's when the dead-eyed theme park employee gets to look you right in the eye and go, "I'm sorry, but he's still too short to ride." People will also try to sneak right past you and hide the child, knowing full well that they aren't tall enough to ride the ride. They'll catch you inside later. Or they'll try another guilt-trippy tactic. They'll put the child up to the height bar, and before you get the chance to properly see it, the assholes will start clapping and cheering. This makes the child happy, and then makes the theme park worker look like the bad guy when they have to say no. I can't tell you how many times this has happened to me. I literally look the parents right in the eye and go, "Don't cheer yet, he doesn't look like he's tall enough." Then I have to get them to hold the child still enough to confirm, and I'm not gonna lie, I take personal joy in seeing the family's joy stripped away from their faces when they realize they've been caught. I feel bad for the child for having such a shit family, though. And don't get me started on people putting things in their kids' shoes to try and make them taller. I've had people shove things from crumpled up maps to ice cream bars in there. We technically aren't supposed to touch kids when we're measuring them, but honestly, sometimes you have to put your hand on their head to flatten out their hair and see if it's their head touching the bar or their hair. Hair doesn't count, after all. And I have absolutely reached down when I realized that something was up with their foot or their shoe. One lady was absolutely taken aback when I realized that she shoved something into one of her child's shoes. Only one shoe for some reason. And I outright reached down and felt that his heel was all the way out of his shoe. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but this shoe has been modified. Your child won't be able to ride." All that stuff, that's just at the entrance of the ride. There are also height sticks further in because even if we check you outside, we're still gonna check you inside too, especially if the kid looks like they barely make it. And that is where the most fights happen. People will insist that their kid was checked outside despite the fact that they are not tall enough. They'll call managers, they'll scream, they'll rage, and I've even had someone outright start punching the height stick repeatedly. Just do me a favor, friends. Before you go on vacation, actually plan your shit out. Measure your kids, know their heights, and don't try to sneak them onto rides that they aren't tall enough for. Because it won't work. And you trying to force them on rides that they aren't tall enough for isn't safe. See that lap bar? When you guys go down that drop, your kid's face is gonna bash right into it. See that restraint? It's not meant for kids that small, and your kid who doesn't fit the height requirement is going to be able to squirm right out of it, which means either an injury or someone's going to catch that on the cameras, and you will be the cause of the entire ride having to be shut down. Safety requirements are there for a reason. We don't just tell you no because we're being assholes. We're trying to keep your child alive. Well, my bump is here. I'm clocking out. I will see you all Lulu later.